I am, oops, sorry, if I can figure out how to use my computer. Should we go ahead and get started? Are we waiting
Yeah,
for?
I mean, we are at time and there's probably less people. I think people at the very beginning, because they're pretty tight breaks, they kind of start to trickle in. So go ahead and get
Okay,
started. People will do what they
perfect,
need to do, and I'm going to come off camera. Thank you,
perfect.
Amanda.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Amanda. Have fun.
Thank you. So I am very excited to be with you all this morning. Just a little bit about myself. This is probably one of my favorite workshops to give because it's all about self-care and things that you can do for yourself as a professional, as a parent, as a sibling, spouse, whatever. So these are all just strategies for you. Um, I am the trauma informed specialist for Boys and Girls Clubs of Metro Richmond, and that position was created through a partnership with Greater Richmond SCAN. I'm also a yoga and meditation teacher and children's book author and a mom, so lots of different hats. Um, Prior to COVID, I spent time bouncing back and forth between 5 clubs, trying to develop mindfulness with staff, parents, and with our students. And so I think when we took our global pause unexpectedly in March, it threw many of us sort of into wearing more hats than what we were already wearing, if that's possible. And so we just looked as a staff and thought that we could really work within the community at large to help each other develop some things that can help with our overall wellness. And that's how this workshop was born. So feel free to ask questions. There are a couple poll questions embedded, but rather than us doing breakout for the sake of time, if you could just drop your answers into the chat, that would be great. If you have questions at the end, I tried to leave a little bit of space there as well, so that if you want to turn your camera on and ask any questions, you certainly are free to do that. If you go to Greater Richmond SCAN's webpage, we celebrated Resilience Week in either May or June. The months have kind of run together. And there's a plethora of resources that you can use, again, for yourself, staff, parents, or students. And so we'll go ahead and jump right in. And so just a quick check-in in the chat, just how you're feeling today on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being you're really struggling and 10 being this is like the greatest day ever. So just drop that in the chat. I know you all have had a busy few days of workshops. And so I know for me, my day's been a little hectic, but I'm still at about an 8. I see mostly 7s, 8s, couple of 10s, a 5. I would say that if you are feeling like you need to take a break or you need some additional support even after this, feel free to shoot me an email. I can send you all types of self-care tips that you might be able to use. Or if you have questions about anything we go over today, then you can also feel free to just shoot me an email. All this presentation will be available to you, and there's a lot of resources at the end as well. And so again, using that same scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel that you are doing in the area of boundaries? I know for me, when we first started our COVID vacation, things were a little hectic, especially with my girls were in school one day, my son was in college one day, and then everyone was home. And so I feel like over the past few months, I maybe started off as a 3. You would have likely have seen my 3-year-old sitting in my lap doing most of my Zoom calls. But I think now, as the months have gone on, we've gotten into a little bit of a better routine and establishing some physical and emotional boundaries within our house as well. So setting boundaries is very key to self-care. I tend to pour out a lot, and I'm not always as great about pouring back into myself. And so I have to, even sometimes I have a reminder at the beginning of my day where I can set it for different times, and it reminds me to even take a break or get up and walk. Or if I'm on a call with my supervisor, she's typically walking around the neighborhood while she's doing our weekly check-ins. And so just really trying to schedule self-care because it's not something that right now just comes naturally in all of our days. And so with establishing physical boundaries, this is something that we've really worked hard to do within my own home and have encouraged our families at Boys and Girls Club to do as well. I'm sitting in what I call the Zen Den at my house. This was my daughter's bedroom. I moved her to the guest room so that I could create like an entire space here where I have plants, I have yoga mats, I have like a salt lamp behind me. I have lots of different incense. And so this is like a physical break space for me so that I'm not meditating at my desk. My desk is no longer in my bedroom. I've just had to create some space for everyone that's doing virtual school. And so, you know, that's something that I know that I needed. Also, making sure that when we eat our meals, we're sitting at the table. So I'm infamous for telling the kids they can have snacks all over the house. And so not doing that, really creating some space for eating. I'm also not that great about not falling asleep on the couch at night. And so making sure that I'm setting an alarm to go to bed so that I'm not so exhausted that I've passed out on the couch. So we have designated space again for work, for play, creating a routine and structure within our day. So when COVID first started, I created like a 30-day menu, right? Because things were like gone from the grocery store. So I needed to know like, these are the things we have in the pantry. These are the things I need to order for Amazon subscription. And we had like a 30-day menu, right? Like I have a big whiteboard downstairs in my den where I was writing like from like almost like a school schedule. Okay, we're not doing that anymore. So I had to give myself some grace there because I'm a planner and I can be like a type A kind of person. And so I just had to give myself grace. Like we may not have a menu today. You guys can eat cereal for dinner. Like that I just had to give myself grace there. And so just letting go a little bit there because I was kind of driving everyone crazy and driving myself crazy at the same time. So also just thinking about things that you can do also with staff or your agency or teams or while you're working from home. We really encourage each other and are encouraging other people to just check on one another. So I might get a text from my colleague who I frequently present with that just says, I hope you're having a great day. Or we have a weekly meeting every Friday at 1 o'clock or 10 o'clock. And so we know to schedule our day around that. Again, my supervisor is encouraging us while we're on Zoom calls. We don't always have to be on camera because, you know, she's walking around her neighborhood trying to like model for us, making sure we're also embedding movement into our day. And then also, because I'm the only non-social worker on my team, I was a former classroom teacher and behavioral specialist. I see, Sam, you can't hear me, and I think everyone else is able to hear me. So you might want to just make sure that your audio is turned on or maybe sign out and sign back in. But just making sure that you're discussing with those that you work with or family or friends how you're doing, because we're not all doing well, right? Just because I see a smile on Diane's face doesn't mean Diane is having a great day. And so just really checking on one another, letting each other know, you know, that you're there just for support. And that's really important right now because for many people, even if you live in a house full of people or whether you live alone, this time can be very isolating. And so just making sure that you're checking on one another. Within my family, my brother lives in California, my sister's in Atlanta. So we initially were doing weekly Zoom dinners with my parents because my parents are in their 70s and so they are not leaving home as much as they would be in another time. And so also just making sure that you are acknowledging and recognizing that as well. This little sign that's at the bottom, I actually purchased that to hang on my door because my 3-year-old thought that like when I was on a Zoom call that we were supposed to be on a Zoom call so together. And so I had to create like a space for her where she could visibly see like now's not the greatest time to come in. And then the last line on there says for her to check with Sissy, which is my 14-year-old Ava, who some of you may have seen this morning, because even though Ava had been doing virtual school, it's much easier for her to step out of a moment in her classroom than it is for me. I ordered this sign on Etsy, Christine. So also having like some emergency self-care plans for yourself. So if you feel like, for those of you who checked in, at a 5 or below, that you need some support, making sure that you have built in some things that you can do for self-care, making sure that you are unplugging from the news, that you're talking to people about things that aren't related to COVID. For me, I have to check out of the news because I'm pretty involved in my community. So I've had to like take off all of the news alerts from my phone because I was like obsessed with them. So even, removing those kinds of things. Intentionally changing your hats. So what that could look like, you might get up in the morning, go for a walk. So you have on like walking kinds of clothes, but then you come home and you intentionally like get dressed for work. And so I don't mean like you have pajama pants on the bottom and like a fancy top or tie on a top, but I mean like you're actually changing clothes. And so and then you might want to change back if you have things to do in the afternoon, if you're gardening or whatever you're doing. So you're making like you're setting an intention to change for a variety of activities. And then also practicing brain breaks. I have Margot's name there. She's a person that works with me, and there will be a link there to a like a Take 5 meditation or activity that she leads, and she's not doing this with me today, but making sure that you're taking some brain breaks as well. All right, so same kind of question. How do you feel that you're doing in the area of breaks, like taking breaks in your day? So same thing, 1 through 10. 6, 7, 5, 4. Okay, so we got a variety of numbers. For me, it varies with the day. And so in the morning, I try to take a break because it takes me about an hour and a half to drop all 3 of my girls off at school. And so that's like a whole nother job in the morning, like running around like a crazy person, getting everybody's lunch together, taking everybody to school. And so I'm very intentional about trying to take a break when I get home. And that break is not like doing chores or doing like an activity that I don't really want to do. It's usually like a 10-minute meditation, maybe even reading for a little bit before I log in, unless I have an early morning meeting. I really try to build a break in for myself during that time of day. And so breaks can look like movement breaks, brain breaks, or just taking a break from whatever you need to take a break from. I have linked within this presentation some movement breaks. One idea is to do stretching, and I normally start with like a breath work activity, but I'm going to do that at the end because I didn't want to run out of time. So that will also include a little bit of like a chair stretch. There's a movement activity that SCAN developed that is linked to this as well. And it's also on our SCAN page at that Resiliency Week link that I mentioned in the beginning. So you might spell out your name, or you might spell out or have your child spell out whatever. And whatever that letter is, you'll do the like little movement activity that's associated with it. Shaking it out looks exactly like what it is. It's so like take like shaking it off. Wiping off the day is very similar to tapping. So that could be another movement idea. Jumping up and down to raise your heart rate, even standing up. So there are like a ton of studies that talk about standing desk and the need to like move throughout your day to get your blood flowing. So those are some other ways that you can take movement breaks. With my kids, I will let them do what's it called? Just Dance is on YouTube. And so they'll do Just Dance while I might be doing something else, like I might be cooking dinner and they're doing a movement activity. I have a pretty big backyard. Not everybody does. And so we'll sometimes go outside and run around with the dog. That's also some things that you can do just to get your body up and moving. Brain break. So anything that crosses your midline. And so like taking your right hand and bringing it down to your left foot, coming back up, left hand down to your left foot. I'll model for you what alternate nostril breathing looks like towards the end. That's another way to help balance your brain. Grounding to the present. So I call this, when I do it with kids, I call it spidey senses. I don't call it grounding. but it's like a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And so it could be look in your space that you're sitting in for 5 things you can touch, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can smell, 2 things you can eat, like going through your 5 senses that way. With mindful eating, and I'm sorry I'm talking so fast. I just want to make sure I get through everything to give you all some time to ask questions. But for mindful eating, again, that is sitting at a table. So I'm awful about eating in the car because we run from school to ballet or gymnastics or this or that. And so it doesn't have to be every meal, it could just be dinner. I try to turn the TV off most nights for dinner. I have everyone sitting at the table. I've gotten into a really good habit about taking food from the pan and putting it in bowls, having the table set up, having my girls set the table up and having them do a lot of that part so that we can sit down and be mindful about the way that we're eating. When you're eating mindfully, there are lots of activities where you can even do this with snacks. So like you can use a marshmallow or an orange or something like that. You could use water. I mean, anything that you're eating or drinking, but you want to really be intentional and slow down with chewing. You want to think about the texture of the food. How does it feel in your mouth? Can you taste it differently on different parts of your tongue because there are different taste buds in different areas? And so really being mindful about that and not like shoving your food, through your mouth as fast as you can. Also using like actual silverware, putting your fork down after each bite, like the way that we're supposed to eat anyhow, thinking about what it feels like as you're swallowing it, what taste is left over in your mouth. When you're doing it with like an orange, there are lots of studies that show like the scent of citrus will help, like smelling an orange for 10 minutes will boost your endorphins for like 30 minutes. And so you can even smell something. I will sometimes even put like essential oils or the smell of different extracts, like baking extracts on cotton balls, and I will keep them in a Ziploc bag and smell those, or do that with kids and run them through that same kind of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So thinking about the 5 senses and what's being activated as you're smelling. Also with walking, this is my preferred mindful practice. I really enjoy walking. I will set an intention while I'm walking to look for birds, or on this walk, I'm going to be intentional about things I can see or hear. And so really taking note of that. So I'm not just walking, but I'm really like being intentional about that. With noticing sensations, how does the air feel on your body? How does the rug feel under my feet? How do I feel sitting against the chair? What do I feel any pain in my body? And so like really being intentional about your own physical self. And then of course with your breath, being able to connect with that. And we'll do that a little bit at the end. I'm also a big proponent of journals. I have a million journals. I have ones that you just write, something you're grateful for, journal that is like a 365-day over the course of 5 years. It'll ask a question like, what's your favorite TV show? And so I'll write my favorite TV show for October 15th, 2020. Then the next year on October 15th, it's asking me the same thing. And so noticing like how your answers change. And then with wiping it off, this is a technique from Eliana Gill, where you're wiping off things from your day. And so it's like a tactile thing where, if you've had a stressful day, you're breathing and you're wiping that off. You can also do tapping, and you can find some videos on YouTube. I think there's some in the resource section where you're also tapping and releasing stress from your body. Again, I can't say enough, taking a break from social media, the news, screen time, work, all of the things. Social media, you tend to compare yourself sometimes to other people. Oh, well, I see Shelly got a new car, or Carlos seems to be going on vacation every week and, I can't go. And a lot of times what we're seeing on social media isn't even like reality. I say a lot of times, like, I wish my life was as perfect as it looks on social media. But just releasing those judgments as well. I try to take a silent retreat one weekend out of the year. And luckily took one in January just to like unplug, meditate, breathe, and just hold space for myself. Again, use one news source. So there's no need to check Richmond Times-Dispatch, CNN, Fox News. Channel 6, like there's no need to check like 65 news sources. I had gotten in the habit where I was like comparing CNN to Fox and trying to see like what the story was and what the real story, like let all that go. A lot of times we can't change anything about it. There's no point obsessing about it. The closer we get to the election, the more inundated we'll be with news. Pick one news source to start with at the beginning or the end of your day. Um, Again, as much as you can unplug from screens, do so. I have a coworker who will set a vacation message from 5 p.m. until like 7 a.m. to say she's not checking email because that's the time she's at home. So it's hard because we're all working from home, or most of us probably are still. And so there's really no like distinction sometimes between home and work if you haven't been intentional about setting those boundaries. And so just be okay with that. Unless you have a job where you're on call or an essential worker or something where it's an emergency, separate yourself from that. Take sick days when you're sick. Take a personal day when you need one. My girls were out of school October the 2nd. That morning I woke up and said, you know what, I'm taking them apple picking in Charlottesville. I'm taking off. I never take days off. But I knew that like I needed a day off and they were off. So there was no point in them being home watching TV all day when I could just easily take 6 or 7 hours off. So just thinking about what types of breaks you are taking, what kind of breaks can you commit yourself to take today or tomorrow? And I really want for those of you who would like that, this is my invitation, of course, to just drop in the chat, like, what can you commit to doing? I can commit to doing a 5-minute meditation after I drop the girls off. I'm not going to commit to running a marathon because I'm not going to do that. So what is something that you can commit to doing that will help you to build a break within your day? And if you feel comfortable, you can go ahead and just drop that in the chat. I'm going to continue to talk for the sake of time, and so that I'm honoring my desire to do a breathwork activity, and then also give you some time to ask questions at the end. And if you all would like to pull up the chat so you can see what others are saying, please feel free to do so. And also just thinking about how you are doing in the area of balance. You don't have to drop that in the chat. People are still, offering their commitments. So just think about, just for yourself, how you feel like you're doing with balance. You guys have some really good ideas about going outside with puppies. We also got a dog. His name is Bentley COVID Lynch. And so he's been a great addition to our family as well. I see people are dropping things about drinking water, walking. These are all great suggestions. This is my troop at home, and I would really like to add this picture. I always talk about my family when I'm doing workshops, and so that's my son who had to come home from college at the top. He's handled COVID about as well as a 21-year-old who's had to leave college in the middle of his last year, and he was in Texas. My daughter that's in front of him, I call her Sunshine Bear. She's like always happy. So these are like the phases of COVID for me, right? So he's like frustrated. She's happy. My daughter Ava is just over it. And then there's Primrose, right? Who's like screaming and crying. And so for me, these are like the cycles that I've gone through in terms of like feeling like there's some balance in my life. And I just thought I would share that with you because I always think it's funny to see like how upset Primrose is about Twizzler in that picture that she wanted for breakfast. So with trying to find balance, again, establish a routine, but be flexible with that routine. Allow for predictability when possible, but just be okay with if everything doesn't go the way that you planned. Just be okay, let it go, kind of have the mentality that tomorrow will be different. Creating a work zone and play zone. We talked about that a little bit. So with my work zone, I'm at my desk, I have my computer, I have all my work materials, but I also have a play zone, not just for my kids, but also for myself, where I have like some adult coloring books, a journal, a comfy blanket. I also have like slippers, fuzzy socks, those kinds of things. Just making time for myself. And then if you're at home with other people, whether it's children, a spouse, someone you're caring for them as well, but prioritizing the time you make for yourself. You are no good to anyone if you're not taking care of yourself, making sure that those things are a priority. Again, we talked about maintaining healthy relationships, setting limits on technology, setting clear and realistic expectations. And so I'm never going to say, well, I'm not going to say never. I'm probably not going to say today that I'm signing up for a marathon in March, because it's probably not going to happen. I can say I'm going to go to 2 hot yoga classes this week, because I already know that that's a win for me. I already know that's something I'm going to do. Being judgment free. So just letting go of judgments that you make about yourself, letting those things go. Creating space with and without children or anyone that's home with you, making meals together. So we were doing this a lot when my girls were home for virtual learning. We would make bread or different things like that together. Also having a routine and a schedule for chores. So I had to download, because my kids were kind of like resisting and believing that mom was a maid. So I had to download an app where they got points for chores. And like, if you had a certain point by Wednesday, we get ice cream. A certain point by Friday, we have Fun Friday, which means we'll go to McDonald's and get Happy Meals. And so that was like really the only way I could get them to help. So, but your kids might be older and more inclined to do that. So just writing it down. Also identifying opportunities to be outside. It's always great to be outside. Again, everything gets raised with sunlight. Just be outside. We'll also go outside if the moon is bright or different things like that. Also reminding yourself about co-regulation. If I'm running through the house screaming and yelling, my 3-year-old's gonna start crying. So if she is frustrated, rather than me jump into her weather, I try to calm her with my own. And so what that will look like for her, I will recognize, hey, you seem very frustrated. How are you feeling? Oh, I'm mad. Well, what does that feel like in your body? Where can you feel that? It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be mad. But these are some things that we can do rather than to throw our toys. Would you like to breathe, or would you like a snack? Or so like, instead of me screaming, I just want to, so like, watching your behavior as weather. So if I come in as a storm, certainly the whole house is going to be stormy. Making sure you're resting. We have about 10 minutes left, so I'm just going to try to go through this last part a little bit quickly. Remembering that relationships matter. I am an introvert by nature, except when I'm teaching. And so I'm okay with this global pause. It's not a pandemic for me, it's a pause, right? And so it's allowed me to like be at home and read and cook and like do all of the things that I normally can't do, because I don't, I very rarely have like breaks in my schedule. And so I have to remind myself I have to check in with people, right? I can't just become a hermit. Scheduling breaks, I have a reminder set at the beginning of the day. I take a break at different times throughout the day. Normally it's in the morning, but if I have a morning meeting, I might schedule the break for 1 o'clock, and it might only be 3 minutes. It might not be my whole lunch break. It might just be where I've gone into the bathroom and done a 3-minute breathing activity. And so those days will vary, and you'll know what works well for you and what you need to do to refill your own cup. So just thinking about, again, how you feel when you're out of balance. Like, how do you feel? I know that I feel very anxious when things are balanced. Thinking about where you feel that in your body. I know that I feel that in my chest. I can feel my heart racing when I feel out of whack. And then think about what might be possible if you communicate this in a mindful way. And so my husband is a truck driver. He's very rarely here. So when he comes home, he's not really a part of our routine. And so he's like chilling, watching TV while I'm running around trying to make dinner. So I have to communicate to him, like, these are the things that need to get done, instead of allowing my heartbeat, my anxiety to just flip my lid where I'm screaming. I'm like, nobody's helping me. And I'm like super frustrated. And so just thinking about like how you can communicate to those around you in a mindful way that you need help, that you need support, that you need to take a break, that you need some help with balance. And so just think about those things as well. This worksheet that's attached, you'll have at the end of this as well. So just be able to write out on that if you'd like, or jot it down in a journal. These are some things that I am committing to myself. And then I have a little video at the end. I'm going to show it to you really quickly, and then we'll do a quick breathing activity, and then we'll have probably about 5 minutes for questions. Hopefully you all will hear it. You may have to turn your sound up just a bit.
Hey there, it's me, Louie. I just want to say,
Can you help Elmo make that pillow fort?
just a second, Elmo. I'll be right there, son. It's wonderful to get to spend so much time with our children. Can also be a bit overwhelming. But I just wanted to say, parents, you are doing an amazing job. Remember, though, it's important to take some time for yourself. Take care of you. You can listen to your favorite song, stretch, or just take a moment to breathe. Come on, breathe with me right now. Huh? Take a slow, deep breath in, and then breathe out. Feels good, huh? We are all doing the best we can, and that is okay. No, it's better than okay. It's okay, son. I'm coming. Looks like I have to go. Time to make a pillow fort. You hang in there. Keep up the great work.
Caring for each other. Visit.
Now, certainly, if Elmo's dad needs a break on Sesame Street and gives himself permission to take a break, and how much stress could really be on Sesame Street, we can all give ourselves a little grace and make sure that we're embedding some of these things into our day. And so I would like to just do a very quick, maybe 1-2 minute breath work activity, and then we have a couple of minutes left for questions. I thank you all for joining me today, just as a side note. So if you are seated in a chair, I'm just going to ask you to drop your shoulders back and bring your chest forward. For those of you who may be sitting on the floor, maybe even your camera's off, maybe you're laying down, just find comfort as best you can where you are. I invite you to close your eyes. However, if that is not comfortable for you, or you simply don't want to, maybe find somewhere to fix your gaze. Maybe it's the tip of your nose, maybe your lap, maybe even it's a focal point on the wall across from you. Notice in your body any areas where you may be feeling tension or stress, maybe worry. Release that. Allow that to melt into the floor beneath you. Take a moment to roll your shoulders. Maybe roll your neck from side to side. Noticing any tightness or stiffness there. Softening your face, jaw. Removing your tongue away from the roof of your mouth. Noticing the natural rhythm of your breath. Setting an intention for peace and stillness. Allowing any thoughts that don't serve you well today to simply be released. Taking a deep cleansing inhale together to the count of 4. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, and releasing 2, 3, 4. Again, inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, releasing 1, 2, 3, 4, and taking one final deep cleansing breath on your own. Making a commitment to honor yourself by taking even one strategy that we discussed today and placing that in your day. Thanking yourself for showing up today And when you are ready, begin to allow just a little bit of light to enter your eyelashes. Slowly bringing your attention back into the space, into the sound of my voice. And so we have just a minute for questions. If you'd like to turn your cameras on and ask questions, please feel free to do so. We have about 3 or 4 minutes. If you'd also like to drop questions in the chat, you can do that if you are just not in a space of wanting to ask verbally. And so again, please feel free to check out the GR Scan Resilience Week page. There are lots of resources that are available, handouts, there's book lists and all kinds of things there as well. And then also I've provided some links to different meditations, information from the CDC about stress and coping, tips for parents, links to movement breaks, also some things about work-life balance, how to find balance in the midst of a crisis. And I think that is it.
Amanda, thank you so much. And there's a question on the chat here from, I believe, Brett Halsinger that says, do you find generational differences at all when it comes to people's views around self-care?
Yes. So my mom is 72. And as I was growing up, I always watched her go to work, regardless of whether she was sick, whether she was, I mean, she very rarely, we took like one vacation in August every year. But aside from that, she just was working. My dad too, like my dad retired and I think he'd taken off like 5 days in 40 years. Right. And so I think for many people who grew up shortly after the Great Depression, the emphasis on self-care maybe isn't that of a generation even behind me. So I encourage my parents to take breaks to, sometimes they'll say, are you going to teach that yoga thing? Or, that kind of thing. They don't always understand like my need for breaks from my kids too. So, yeah, I definitely have noticed a generational gap there. I think people who are millennials tend to be a little bit better about taking breaks, being a little more committed to self-care than those of us who may be on the cusp of that or older.
Wonderful, wonderful. And here with 1 minute left, I know the majority of, of the thanks have been around just bringing calmness, a breath of fresh air, and it's exactly what we needed. And even Blair saying after the end of our first virtual conference, it's really, it's a wonderful session for her and refreshing. So thank you so much. And the one thing I want to walk away with, because I've been going through it, is the weather that we bring or the weather that we decide to step into. What a great analogy and visual for all of us. So thank you so much, Amanda. That was really helpful.
Thank you. I appreciate you all this morning. So I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day and week.
Yes. All right, folks. Well, we'll take our final break. Actually, no, we've got one more break, but we'll take a break now and we'll see you all in 5 minutes. Oh, by the way, don't forget, visit the virtual lounge. If you want to just stop on by and say hello to friends, consider that a place where you can just come and hang out with folks either before or maybe during the beginning part of the next session. Come by the virtual lounge, spend some time with us. I'll be there.
Click on that picture of Carlos to get to us.
Yeah, when I'm sitting in power pose.
Yeah. Walk through, you see Carlos standing there, click on him and that'll bring you on over to Carlos.
So come on over if you want to say hi to some friends.
Yes.
All right, everyone, we'll see you.